Got a bit of a problem with the Defender today. Better take a look. Hi, good morning, welcome back to Mike Makes It. Been looking under the Defender because it looked if I had a bit of an oil leak going on, but on closer inspection, actually fuel. Now fuel's never a good thing to leak, so both for the environment, economy and safety. So I've got to get that sorted straight away. But the other thing on the Defender, I'm trying to shine the light for you. The fuel regulator block is here. In the end, which you can't see from here, I can't see it, let alone get on the camera, is a fuel regulator valve. Now that's fitted into the regulator block with a circlip and an O-ring. Now currently they're not available separately, so I've got to change the whole regulator and block, which I'm happy to do. But as I was saying, it's not only leaking, but it's also going to cause me a longer term problem. Where it leaks directly below me finger that's out of focus is a starter motor assembly, and the fuel leaks into that, and the next thing that's going to happen, you won't be starting the truck up in the morning because the fuel's leaked into the electrics and you don't get a good contact, so the starter don't turn, and that will spoil your day. So I'm going to take the regulator out now. Yes, I've changed it before, but it's a few years ago. I think there's about 3 bolts, couple of pipes, and a lot of waste fuel, so I'll put some rags down. But what I might do is see if I can fire it up and show you where it's dripping from. Very, very difficult to see, and very noisy when the engine's running, but I'll see if I can do that for you. Before we look for drips, let me just have a bit of a pointy screwdriver. This thing is a fuel regulator block. This comes as one unit. There, the blue connector, and here the connector that plugs into it. That's your fuel temperature sensor, I understand. This top pipe is fuel in. The bottom one, you can just see out of focus, is fuel out. And if I go over a little bit further, I don't know if we're lucky to see the end of the regulator. It's a round thing, I don't know. No, I can't really get a good shot for you. But I know I've seen it dripping, so we'll be able to see from up here. So I'll start the engine, we'll have a look. Right, as you can hear, we've started the engine. When we get a bit close, you probably won't hear me, so I'll just end up pointing. But that's a handy step I made. There's a video on it on my channel. Just hooks on the wheels and you can stand on that and get into the engine bay. Anyhow, let's go pointing. Yeah, that was the best shot I could get, I'm afraid. But what I'll do now, I'll take the regulator off. Once again, access and having a camera set up is very difficult here. I'm going to block you out all the time. But this, as I said before, this is what I'm taking off. It looks like 10mm bolts, and I believe there's 3 of them. I can only see 2 of them, but I think there's 3, but I'll tell you after I've took it off. This pipe's got to be popped off, the green one. And also the union down here, there's a big nut. It's like a bit like a brake pipe nut. That needs to come out. I've already disconnected the sensor for the temperature. But behind this block, there's a little tiny gauze, it's a filter basically, with an O-ring on the top. Now, when I bought one of them a few years ago, it was over £70. It's a ridiculous price for what it is. But he will try to pop out as you take this regulator block off, so be aware that it's there. So I'm going to take that off and I'll come back when it's actually in my hand and we can have a look what's going on. Put a few rags underneath though, because you're going to lose fuel. I think I'm also leaking a drop of oil. That's what first put me on to looking underneath what's going on. But I've just seen a couple of drips coming down in front of the big drip you can see there. But there was a lot more drips when I first started. And I've done a taste test and it is diesel, it's not oil. So that's looking under the vehicle. But yeah, back to the top, take that regulator out. Well, that's the regulator out. If you buy the whole assembly, this is what you get. The flexible pipe, regulator all built in behind the circlip and O-rings. What you will also have to get is a metal gasket like that. If we go over to the engine, have a little look in there. I'll get the pokey stick out again. See if we can get you in a bit better. Here, this is the face where that mounts. You might just be able to see an O-ring there. Again, I'll see if I can zoom in. Bear with me. Yeah. There's an O-ring. Behind there, there's about an inch of gauze. It's a filter. Probably about 7-8 mil across, about 20 mil long. And it was £70 3 or 4 years ago. So going on the Land Rover prices now, you can double that. When I refit the new regulator, I'm going to take that out, just make sure it's clean and put a new O-ring in. So I'll show you then. At the minute, I'm going to leave it in there because I don't want to damage it. I'm paying £140 for a little tiny gauze. Not if I have to, not if I don't have to. So the face is clean. You can see sort of, I wouldn't say spotless, but there's no issues going on there. Because it hadn't been that long ago since I changed it. But let me see if I can, let me zoom out, forgive me on that. If we orientate it the way it was pretty much like that in the engine. And what I could see, we had fuel leaking from here. Now apparently there is an O-ring behind the regulator. There's also a hole in the regulator. If we can find it, there he is. Now, I suspect that's for nothing else other than if the regulator fails or something else going on there, you'll leak fuel out of that. Now, it was such a bad sort of view to see what was going on. It may have even been the regulator that failed, but I'm going to order the whole assembly. And when I got that, I'll tell you how much it is and I'll come back and we'll refit it. But the bottom bolt, this one, that's a pig. That took me an hour to get to. I'll show you what I've used to actually manage to reach in to get it. Hang on. Oh, I've tried all different things, different lengths. It basically is 1/4 inch driver, 10 mil socket on the end. And there's one of these flexi joints. I'll put a bit of tape round. Otherwise, when you lifted it up, it went all limp on you. So that's the only way I could get in there. I've done it before, so I know there was a way of doing it. But it was a lot of fiddling around. But that worked for me. But yeah, let's go on the internet, order one of these regulators. Well, this is a unit out on the bench. I thought while I'm waiting for the part, I might take this to pieces, or certainly the regulator out. It's only a circlip holding it in. And see if I can see anything leaking in there. I tried running a drop of WD-40 through one of the holes, which appears to lead to this. But that's not coming out. But it only dripped about once every 5 seconds when the truck was running. So I'm not really expecting anything to leak out when it's not under pressure, but let's just see if we can pop this out. I will look later to see if we can get O-rings and even the regulator separately. But Haynes say, at the time of their publication, they weren't available. I have to get a pair of pliers. Hang on, let's see what we've got on the drawer here. That might do. Because this isn't going back. This will go down the scrapyard. Oh, there we go. But it'd be interesting just to see what we got. I know I've changed it before, and I'm pretty sure I didn't take it to pieces before. Because there was no need. Right, that feels if it's stuck in there with an O-ring. It's got that sort of feel on it when you turn it around. Right, get a screwdriver. Well, I might have to put this in the vise, so I might have to do that off shot, but let's see what happens now. Oh, it's moving. There we go. What's going on there? There's a couple O-rings, or is that a split O-ring? It looks like that might be a damaged O-ring there. That might have been all part of that assembly. So I've carved that off by opening it up. Unless, of course, that's what's happened and a wire's failing. And there's a big O-ring around there. And that's the actual regulator itself. Just having a little look, see if I can see any damage to the outer O-ring, because that's the one that would cause it to leak, I would have thought. But there is a hole here, you can see. Now that's there for a reason. Certainly on water pumps, they put a hole in there to give you an idea if the bearing and the seal's gone, and because water drips out. Whether that's the same on here, I don't know. Anybody knows, you can leave it in the comments, that would be helpful. I can't truly see if that seal's damaged there. This one has, for sure. The one around the tip. But what consequence that would have for this to leak as an assembly, I'm not sure. But we're changing the whole assembly. Hopefully that'll be here in a day or so. And you can watch me put it back in. I don't think I had to swap this out. This is temperature sensor. If I do, then obviously I'll remove it from here and swap it over to the new unit. But I suspect it comes as a complete unit, i.e. this is already in here, this pipe's attached. I do remember this being attached to it already when I had the old one, or the new one last time. And it does come with a metal gasket also. I'll put all the part numbers in the description of the video, just so you can follow along if you need to. But yeah, just wait for the postman now. Right, here we go, a day later, so not too bad. I paid the money though for next day delivery, and lo and behold, a part has been delivered. This is aftermarket part, not a genuine Land Rover part. Total price delivered was about £86. But there it is. This pipe pops off here. They do it for shipping. So this connects back up, obviously, to, I think this goes off to the fuel cooler. This is feed in, as far as I'm aware, unless I got it back to front. However, all the pipes are in the car. You saw me largely take them off. That's the fuel regulator, and I believe that's the one that was leaking on my truck. So, well, not this actual one, but that's the problem of the old one, which I took the regulator out from. I've looked online, and you can get regulators. They're around about £20–30 each. Excuse me. So I may well rebuild this old one as a spare unit, because this one's only been in probably 3 years and it's failed. So we'll rebuild that, and yeah, it'll go in the cupboard ready for next time. With this module, you get 2 gaskets. You'll use one of them depending on your machine, your engine. They look very similar, but there's a different cutout here, a bigger cutout to what's here. So pair them up with the old gasket, and in my case, that was the old gasket, and it's worked for years. So it looks like that one, not that part on my truck. Mine is a 2-pipe input. Some of these are 3 pipes, depending on the model of the engine, I guess. But I don't need that one. I need this one. Part numbers there. I will put this in the description, all the part numbers anyhow. So yeah, you get 2 gaskets. You also get a little O-ring, or 2 O-rings by the looks of it. Now, I'm guessing that's to go over that little sieve I mentioned, the little gauze filter, which you haven't seen yet. I'll be getting that out to show you. But I have got a genuine O-ring. When I changed this last time, they put the new one in of the fuel regulators. I got a genuine O-ring from Land Rover. In fact, I got 4. I've got 3 left. And that's the part number. And that's a lot smaller. Don't know if you can see that. lot smaller than the green one that's supplied with this kit. So, and this looks about the same size as the one that's already on there. So I'm going to fit the genuine Land Rover part. So you might want to think twice about using that, or certainly confirm on your vehicle these would be the correct ones. But there's quite a difference in size, so this is what's going back on my Land Rover today. What I'll do, I'll go and get the gauze filter out and I'll show you what I was talking about. I mentioned it a little bit previous, about that long, and now I checked the price, about £106 each, and you'll be amazed by the cost of it compared to what you actually get for your money. So I'll go and grab that out the truck. If I can set the camera up so you can see where I'm with me taking it out, I will. If I can't get a good image, you'll see the gauze filter appear here in a second. So I'll get out to the truck, see what I can do. Right, we'll try to flick off the O-ring without losing the gauze filter. Right, it's on its way. I think we also lost the gauze filter. Let's go and have a look under the car. I think I heard it drop into the catchment tray I put there in case we lost diesel. If we're lucky, if not, Mike's paying £100 again. Okay, something else fell off. Gauze filter must still be in there, so let's get back up and have a look. Right, here we go. O-ring's out. See if we can just tease out the gauze filter. Hang on, so I'm going to lose that. That's longer than I remember. Let's get that on the bench. Right, there you are. That's the gauze filter. It's actually 2 inches long by about 7 mil across. A little oil, strainer, if you like. Now, when I had the vehicle, I took this apart when I changed the regulator valve, and there's about half of this in there. I believe this was still in here, the top, but it was snapped off there. So somebody may have changed this in the past, the regulator. This part come out and it got snapped off. Don't know. I have no idea, but I know it cost me £70 to replace it. So we're going to get our clean out, bit of IPA through it, make sure there's no debris. It does look clean though, I must say, looking down the hole in the middle. But the O-ring I took out was a little chubby chap, like the genuine part from Land Rover. So my suggestion would be, if you're going to change this part, the fuel regulator, don't use the O-rings that come with it, because they're absolutely totally different. I think the hole in the middle is about the same, but these are very much fatter O-rings, not what I normally come across. I think I'm going to refit this assembly now, put the gauze filter back in, etc., off camera, because what you can see and access is very difficult to actually record on video. So I'll get this back in, and the last few pieces I connect up, I'll bring you back to show you what I'm doing. So I'll crack on with that now. Right, all back together. I've shown you in the previous video how you do this, but I'll go over it again. And that's to purge all the air out of the system. Obviously, we've had the fuel regulator out, air's got into the system, we need to bleed that out. The TD5 will do it automatically, so semi-automatically, I should say. Switch the ignition on, like so, not turning the engine or cranking it. 5 pushes on the throttle pedal. You get the engine management light coming on. Now that'll run through a cycle. The fuel pump will keep running and it'll purge the air from the system. Let it run its cycle. When you hear the fuel pump stop, you should be able to crank the engine, but I'm not going to do that just yet because I want to make sure I haven't got any fuel leaks. So I'm going to go in the engine bay now, see if we're squirting diesel everywhere. Right, there you go, we're in the engine bay. You may be able to hear the fuel pump running in the background, it certainly is. But so far, I can't see any leaks. We'll have a quick look underneath. There's just one glove under there and everywhere is dry, so hopefully that'll be it. Once that finishes cycle, I'll fire it up. We're going to have another look, but I think we're probably done. But once the cycle's finished, we'll give it a go. There, don't know if you caught that there, that's the air being purged, so we wait for that to finish, then we'll fire it up. Right, it's the next morning, and we are all leak free. Everything's all put back together, all hunky-dory. I've given it a road test, and there's nothing leaking out of it in the way of fuel, which is great. However, a little bit of a saga happened last night. The last report I said to you, yeah, it wasn't leaking until I put the camera down and you could still see fuel coming out. We'll go to the garage and I'll show you why. Alright, yeah, the last thing I said to you when the engine was running, got no leaks, and we didn't until I put the camera down and I had a better look, and we had fuel leaking around this bolt hole. This is the worst bolt to get to. A bit of a devil from the top. You can get to it if you lie on your back underneath the vehicle with a couple of long 1/4 inch extension bars, and that's what I had to do in the end. You'll see the regulator is actually missing. Well, that's in. I had to take that out and fit that to the old regulator assembly. Not that this was leaking here, it's the fact that this is a patent part. A patent part is a copy of an original manufacturer's part, and sometimes they don't copy it that well. Now, I don't know if we can get close enough on here. You may be able to see machine marks in the face of this unit. They're a little bit hard to see. Let me put the camera down and see if I can zoom in. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Hopefully you can see some lines running down here. These are machine marks. They would have machined this on a mill of some description with a fly cutter to give a, inverted commas, smooth surface. Now, the problem I got, fitted this new part with a new gasket. It's a steel gasket. I guess they use that because a normal, you know, we're dealing with fuel here, so it needs to be something robust. So the normal paper gasket or cardboard gasket just not going to cut it. So you've got a steel gasket and you've got ridges in here. See the ridges running round? Now they're slightly raised until you compress the fuel regulator here to the body of the engine, and that forms a seal. Now unfortunately, let's see, get this in shot again, those lines basically are forming pathways for the fuel to leak out from, which isn't good, certainly not in my case. And I don't know if we can zoom in on this gasket face. This is the new gasket face that was put in. I can just see it on camera. If you look down here, I'm just moving it around in the light. Can't actually, there you can, yeah, there we go. Here you can see lines in it. Now those lines have been pressed in from the casting. So you've got hundreds of little, I say waterways, hundreds of little areas that the fuel can get into and leak out, and that was happening. I looked on the old casting and this is absolutely smooth. This one, not so good. So you may well find there's a Mike makes it how to repair brand new parts for your Land Rover video coming up. So keep a look out for that. But I'm going to talk to Paddock. This is who I had it from. It's not necessarily Paddock's fault. They only supply the unit, but this is definitely defective. Put the old unit back in with the new fuel regulator from this device. It's working fine. Unfortunately, I had to use the old gasket. I didn't have a spare new gasket to put in, and this wasn't going to cut it because all the ridges in it. But so far leak free. But I'm going to order a new one of these for my car or truck. That's the part number. And you saw earlier I showed you some green O-rings. I haven't got a clue what they're for. I thought they try to put them in to replace this O-ring, but you definitely need one of these if you're changing the fuel regulator assembly, and that's the genuine Land Rover part number for it. Now, it's quite possible that you're expected to buy your own O-ring for it, but I don't know what the other two O-rings are for. They weren't in the original one I took out, and they're not gone in. In fact, I've lost them. They're on the bench somewhere, but they're gone. But yeah, you'll need this part and the associated gasket. The gasket, this thing and the other one did come with the fuel regulator assembly. But yeah, it turned out to be a bit of a nightmare. I finished repairing it last night and we all look good this morning. So yeah, I can go to work in it today. But be aware of that. I'll do any update in the comments after I get a response back from Paddocks. Not their fault, like I said, but is this the only part that's faulty, or have other people had the same problem? But hey, I hope you found that interesting. Sorry to waffle on a bit. I seem to have done that this time. But yeah, thanks for watching Mike Makes It, and come back soon.